Welcome to the Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast. Thomas Miller, thanks so much for joining us here. We're going to announce something new, and I am so excited about this. Really, this should have happened, well, not should have, everything's fine in its own divine timing, right? But this was conceived at the end of 2023, and some of the initial work was put together. Then I took this little trip in January of 2024, and my life changed on a dime. And talk about manifestations, and now, boy, am I ever seeing a full circle on this situation, because even as I'm recording this, it's in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. The little town where I was living in North Carolina, which I adored, has been heavily damaged. The infrastructure, as I'm speaking, is basically shut down across all of the mountains of North Carolina. Roads are closed, food is scarce, power, internet, cell, all very sparse, trees down everywhere, roads washed out. And the thing about rebuilding roads that are washed out is they're washed out because they're on the edge of a mountain. You have to rebuild the infrastructure. You have to change the road. This is huge. And somehow, some way, in the universe's timing, I was offered this situation in Southern California, and I am 9 miles from the San Andreas Fault. So, I mean, he's like, grew up with tornadoes in Oklahoma. Fortunately, didn't deal with hurricanes with those few months I was in Florida. But boy, this one, had I been in North Carolina, would have been paralyzing. So I don't understand it all, but I'll tell you what, the whole tapestry of life just got a lot more real in these last couple of weeks. But this project that began in 2023, that was interrupted by the move and then the family situation, and by the way, the update on that is it has not healed, but it is more clear. And with that clarity comes release, and with that release comes healing. And time has its way as well. So all of that has been in the past. Now it is time to move forward. We're here toward the end of 2024. Little later than I expected, but here we are, and again, in divine timing. So one of the other things that I've been doing since the move is returning to a lot of the basics in these areas that are well documented throughout the episodes of this podcast. And with one of those is refocusing on the self-talk that is in our heads, particularly in my head. And with all of these disruptions, the self-talk I know had changed, not to the positive. And I realized that it was time to reverse that and to just go back to what worked. So you know that back in 2008, 2009, and the Genesis, the beginning episodes of this podcast, we talked about Kelly Howell and her meditations, her subliminal programming. Those are still out there, and they are very effective and certainly helped change so many directions in my own life. But also we grow, right? We progress, we move on, and those meditations opened the space for a little prompt in 2013 that said, email Fred Dodson about narrating his audiobooks. And that turned into over 50 published audiobooks and everything else that we've been doing since. I mean, I'm telling you, this stuff works. But then I think of the Bible story where Jesus was walking on the water. There was a storm. The storm was raging. The waves were high on the Sea of Galilee. And Jesus came walking across. The disciples were in the boat, and Jesus comes walking across the water. Then Peter, who was probably an Aquarian or something, he said, hey, I want to do this. And Jesus invited him out onto the water, and he started walking. But then it says he took his eyes off of Jesus and started to sink down in the water. And the idea of Jesus being a way shower, showing us our path, showing us how we can rise above the storms of our life. And we take our eyes off of that material. We take our eyes off of the focus. We start looking at the situation around us. Guilty as charged. I did through the summer. And it was kind of a back and forth because I would get it back together and then I would just, go sink into, look at the waves and start to sink again. And that's the whole idea of the story. Jesus reached out his hand, lifted Peter back up. Isn't that a cycle we often go through? But I knew that the next layer in front of me personally was to create and distribute my own material. So this is going to be audiobooks. There are several in the queue that are coming up. And the other that really got alive for me were meditations. We've done so many on here. We did them as part of the Sunday series, and they are scattered throughout the hundreds of episodes of Subconscious Mind Mastery. But I wanted to bring them together as a product that could go out to more mass distribution eventually. So that's all what happened before the move. A website called High Timeline Publishing was born, and then I thought, we really need to make that simpler. So High Timeline Books and High Timeline Living all point to High Timeline Publishing. They all get you there one way or the other. I thought that's a place where we can put a resource of high timeline. How do you stay on your high vibe? Well, I'm getting that slowly redeveloped, and it will look a lot better over the rest of this year and going into 2025. But something that I've done here lately is to create meditations, and these were spawned by our Level Up group on Sunday night, which is focusing on prosperity. And by the way, that's an offspring from our private Facebook group only for podcast listeners. It's the Subconscious Mind Mastery and Fun Astrology Podcast Listeners group on Facebook. And it's where a closer group of us kind of hang out and share more behind-the-scenes topics and also things that are more private in our own lives that we wouldn't want out there on social media. But we know that we have kindred spirits and like minds in that group. And Level Up is one of the things that we do in there on Sunday nights. You're welcome to join us. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday nights. The best way to find it is on the Fun Astrology YouTube channel. We were doing it right there in the private group, but Facebook threw us a curve, and now we're out on YouTube, which is better anyway. It's more open and available to more people. So as part of Level Up, we've been doing meditations about prosperity and really going back to the basics. And I love, from the minute I first saw her first words, Catherine Ponder, beautiful soul, still alive as I'm recording this at 97, and lives about 45 minutes down the road from me in Palm Springs and/or/Palm Desert. They kind of run together. One town overlaps the other down there in the Coachella Valley. So the first affirmation that I created in this little series was based on Catherine Ponder's affirmations and just simply put them to music. This is a relaxing meditation. They're all running right about 30 minutes. The second one I'll tell you about, Neville Goddard's meditation, is a wee bit longer, but this one is about 30 minutes. These are definitely something you could put on if you're having trouble sleeping. Definitely. Between the music and then the voice, the narration, I think it's something that could calm your mind and help you fall asleep. And also, while you're doing it, play it right there on your phone next to your bed. Let it tail on out, and you will implant the seeds of what is being said into your subconscious mind, which is very receptive to be programmed during that time. So it is definitely something you could use. You could use the earbuds, although I wouldn't suggest that, especially Bluetooth at night for sleeping. But if you had a wired set, like I used to have, you could use those. Or you could just play it on a speaker in the room, softly. But there is just nobody like Catherine Ponder. She just had a way with words and such beautiful, simple, pure affirmations about bringing good things into our life, about living our highest timeline. So I wanted to give you a sample of the first one. So I'm going to show you all three that are available now as this is being recorded, and then there's a bundle that I'll tell you about at the end. But how to get them is, if you're just itching already, hightimelinebooks.com will get you there, and these are all right at the top, at least as this is being recorded. But there is a meditation page, and all of the meditations that we created will be there on that meditation page. But just to show you what this is like, here is a little sample from Catherine Ponder's Prosperity Meditation. If your mind is calm, you should be in the alpha state, where our brain is most susceptible to suggestive programming. Let's focus our mind on prosperity now. I am a rich child of a loving universe, so I dare to prosper now. I dissolve in my own mind and in the minds of all others any idea that my own can be withheld from me. No person, thing, or event can keep that from me which the universe has for me now. As you heard those two statements, what came to mind? Did you hear an objection in your head? Listen to them again. See if anything pushes against these statements for you. It's okay if it does. We're going to turn them around. I am a rich child of a loving Father, so I dare to prosper now. Any objection? Or is the path completely clear? If you heard an objection, capture it in your mind. We'll deal with it in a minute. How about this again? I dissolve in my own mind and in the minds of others any idea that my own can be withheld from me. No person, thing, or event can keep that from me which the universe has for me now. If you heard an objection in your mind, something challenged it. You might say, I am not a rich child. I am not prosperous now. You might say, are you kidding? Things are tight. Inflation is up. Groceries, the expenses, everything, it's so much pressure. Remember, this is about seeing what isn't instead of what is. But honor those thoughts because they're coming from your subconscious mind. Whatever your thought was is part of a block that is keeping that from you. So let's work with it. Let's honor your subconscious mind because it has a program, it has something fixed in there that knows that it is your fixed, programmed outcome. So honor it for that. Now, you can't go very far in the whole reprogram your subconscious mind and create your reality without bumping into Neville Goddard. Interesting guy. Born in 1905 in Barbados, which is one of the Caribbean islands that is down there off the northeastern coast of South America. But as a child, his family found their way to California, where most people came back in those days. You could only imagine in the glory days of Hollywood when he would have been in L.A. That's where his work was based and where he died in West Hollywood at the age of 67. He was young, but he had quite an impact, especially on this area. The Bible was a big part of his teaching, and because of his more British-influenced training and education, he was deep and sometimes hard to understand. But the basis of his teaching really boiled down to imagining, feeling, and believing. So that crossed my path right after I did the Catherine Ponder meditation, and I wanted to create a synopsis of that, because once you get what's in this meditation for Neville Goddard, you really have the bulk of his teaching. And of course, it's the basis of so many other teachings as well. Obviously, these teachings are not new. Jesus taught these things. The Buddha taught these things. Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching all the way back to the 4th century BC. I mean, these are ancient writings, and it's all basically the same kind of teaching. We just hear it through different ears at different times, different voices, different languaging, and the popcorn pops, and you go, I get it. So this is perfect as part of this bundle to have an Imagineering, if you will. Imagineering, wasn't that a Disney term? Imagine engineering. Meditation, and that's what this next one is, the Neville Goddard meditation. Isn't that a wonderful feeling? Love the freedom of non-attachment. If we could only spend more time there, right? For Goddard, the image and the feeling are the key. So capture that feeling. And then when that feeling is its absolute strongest, pinch the skin between your thumb and index finger. Just squeeze it right there as you're thinking about that image, with the intention that when you squeeze that little flesh right there, you can get back to that image anytime. Do it now. And then do it again. See the image. Feel its fulfillment. Release the how it's going to happen and squeeze that little skin right there. You can use another place if you'd rather. That's just one. Do it one more time. See the vision clearly. See you dancing in the sunlight, celebrating its fulfillment. Feel what that feels like. Release the how. Now, if you get online and you're interested in Catherine Ponder and you search up Unity Church Worldwide, that is the organization that she started when she moved to Palm Springs in 1973. So this year, 2024, is her 51st year of that organization, that church, if you will, which was the basis of her international work that she established when she moved here. It's not a congregation, they don't have meetings, etc., and she's at 97, doing well, but still answers her own mail and sends things out, and there is a picture of her that was sent out in her August newsletter, and just so precious. We showed it on Level Up. But that became the ministry, if you will, that launched her as an author and a teacher, and she traveled the world back in the years when she could. That office is located very close to the downtown area, the main shopping area, the ritzy shopping area of Palm Desert. And about a mile or so up the hill, literally straight up the hill, was Burt Goldman's house. Now, here was another Los Angeles connection back in the day. Burt caught fire with this New Age metaphysical kind of teaching in the 1950s after he got back from the Korean War. Well, a popular teacher back then was Paramahansa Yogananda, who was the guru, if you will, who brought yoga from India to the West, and he was based in Los Angeles. Burt found him and became a direct mentor of Paramahansa Yogananda. Wow. He then went on to work with Jose Silva. Many of you are familiar with the Silva method, and Burt was one of Jose Silva's primary top teachers of the method. So he did seminars and etc., and then his work was published in a couple of Mind Valley things that I think are still out there. But Burt passed away in the summer of 2020. He was 92, and he stayed vibrant right up until the end. In fact, he didn't even create his quantum jumping, which was another version of Parallel Universes of Self, which is still Fred Dodson's most popular audiobook, and that was written in 2006. But Burt didn't create quantum jumping until he was in his 70s. And then in his 80s, he used the quantum jumping idea of basically going out there and finding another reality where you did something that you want to do now. That's the whole idea of parallel universes. And you bring it in. You connect with that version of you that did that thing in that other reality, and you bring it forward into this reality. And from that, he learned to paint and ended up selling his paintings. They were in high demand. And then he also learned how to play the piano, same way. And I find it ironic that Burt Goldman and Catherine Ponder were, in essence, in a way, neighbors, and I would imagine they knew each other. And Burt was just such a beautiful soul. I would love to have been able to know him. But I feel that his work needs to be continued on and not forgotten. So the third meditation is a quantum jumping meditation, and it is parallel universes, if you will, and it's my rendition on Burt's technique. Now, as you relax again, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. A door will appear in front of you. 1, 2, 3. See the door. This is a transition point for you, a jumping off place. From here, you get to wherever your intent directs you to go beyond the door. There are an infinite number of dimensions or infinite number of universes on the other side of this door. In one of those infinite universes, you took a different path. You achieved a positive conclusion to any issue in your life, and any one of those positive outcomes is available to you on the other side of that door. There are millions and millions and millions of you. Each of these is a twin of you. Twin who is experiencing different realities than you are because of different choices. So think now of something in your life that you would like to explore one of those different choices, a positive outcome. So there are 3 samples of these meditations that are now available at hightimelinebooks.com. This is going to be the platform that I'm going to be distributing future books, audiobooks, projects like this, etc. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is distributing them on here for about the first year of their creation, and then eventually they will find their way to more mass distribution, such as the way the audiobooks have been done in the past on Audible and iTunes. But for now, hightimelinebooks.com, you get direct access. It's a slick little app that you will download. It basically operates just like the Audible app. So if you have ever used that, this is just like it, except one of the main differences is you can leave comments on the meditations, which I think is really cool. Some interactivity there. And by doing this, obviously we're not paying the Bezos machine over half of the sales just to distribute it. So it's the best way I have right now. If a better way comes out, we'll jump on it at that time. But for now, seems to be it, and it's going to allow me to distribute them to you directly. It's also a pipeline that I can stuff a lot more. I'm just really, really looking forward to it. So I hope you'll go check it out. Right now, there is a bundle available. Of those 3, the Catherine Ponder, the Neville Goddard, and the Quantum Jumping from Burt Goldman, you get all 3 for the price of 2. Now, that's subject to change, but right now, that's the offer that's kicking all of this off. I know from personal experience how helpful meditations like this can be for all of us. So I'm throwing my hat in the ring, and if you like the work that you hear here, would love to have you check these out and pick them up. It also helps support me continuing to do this and supports the podcast, so I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you pick these up, and I hope you enjoy them as you are enjoying the journey. I'm Thomas Miller. I love you. Thank you so much for listening.